Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here and so thrilled to be following those two class acts with the legal subject matter. But I'm not going to get too heavy in on the detail there. I just want to make sure that that baseline literacy that we've sort of heard from Gary and reinforced by Joan is once again reinforced in what I've got to say, because it's really important not to rush into these things without that baseline knowledge. So a little bit about me. My area of legal practice is media, technology, privacy and intellectual property rights. My involvement in emerging tech has seen my law firm Lander & Rogers, together with my colleagues Amelia Lynch and Simon Merritt, advising on NFTs in sport, including racing, most recently with the MVRC and various other sectors. Today I'm going to talk about some headline issues when it comes to NFTs in particular, and with the simple aim of making it a little bit more accessible. I've divided my quick chat with you today into 7 short and sharp sections. We'll revisit what NFTs are, but we won't spend too long on that. We'll look at the nexus between sport and NFTs, consider some of the success stories that we've heard about today, but I'll talk about a couple more. The reason for their success, some of the legal issues, and the Australian Federal Government's foray into token mapping, just so that you've got a sense of what might be coming, and a little device I'll leave you with that might help navigate this space a little bit easier. So we've heard from Gary and from Joan what NFTs are. We haven't really heard what the acronym stands for, which you probably all know, but it's non-fungible token. It's a type of digital asset, and we heard earlier that cryptocurrency is another type of digital asset. The difference between them is that the fungible tokens are identical and are of the same value. Non-fungible tokens are unique and can vary in value. Both represent a store of value that can move from one person to another, as Gary so beautifully explained to us, on a blockchain platform. And it depends on the blockchain platform which cryptocurrency you use. As they're bought and sold, NFTs are normally minted first. So has anyone I'm sure there are people who have actually gone through the process of owning an NFT, buying and owning an NFT. But for those who haven't, you can usually find an NFT on a website, a creator's website, or on a secondary market called OpenSea, where once you've bought your NFT, you can sell it on a secondary market. You need a wallet that sits on your phone. So that MetaMask is perhaps one of the most common wallets. And if you don't know about it, and if you've got children, they will certainly know about MetaMask. That's what you use to connect to the website where the NFT is minted from or bought and sold on the secondary market. However, I suppose something that isn't as clear as that, we've heard from Gary how the transaction itself is automated on the blockchain. It doesn't need a centralised authority. All it needs is cryptography amongst all of the different computers that talk to each other. That's how they talk. They talk in cryptography. And so there's no need for any other sort of anything else to happen. Gary also referred to smart contracts, which from a legal perspective, you think must involve a legal contract, something that is a binding in relation to that transaction. And that's actually a little bit misleading, because it might be the technological rules that give effect to that transaction, but they're certainly not the legal rules. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. NFTs, though, when they appear in your wallet, are usually that graphic, that sort of, pixelated graphic, or they link to an audiovisual file. So the link between NFTs and sport, well, we've heard today Cricket Australia's example. NBA Top Shot is the leading example, which Gary took us through also today. But the reason I suppose we're talking about it here is to understand how it can increase fan engagement, how it can grow your fan base beyond capacity restrictions and geography, how you win over that next generation of fans and keep the sport alive. We've heard that it's a generation, digital natives, crypto natives. They've grown up during a pandemic. They've grown up during lockdowns. They inhabit virtual worlds and they socialise in virtual gaming worlds. And it's one where they can actually earn a living from themselves as well, simply by playing a game. So we need to be able to communicate with that next generation in this digital mode. The most prevalent users of crypto and NFTs are under the age of 45, which is a key target market for sporting organisations, particularly racing. So it's inevitable to have to engage with all of this stuff. There's also the elephant in the room, but ESG and the social licence issues that are a constant challenge for this industry. So crypto and the metaverse are likely to be pull factors for this market. So turning to some of the success stories already, the proven record. We've had Top Shot, which is a really fascinating example, converting that swap card experience that we experienced as kids into the digital form. I won't go into that too much, but I will go into one of Australia's leading examples. So in addition to Joan's wonderful work with Cricket Australia, the Australian Open Art Ball, which was the brainchild of Tennis Australia, is just an incredible example of how you can gamify the experience of a sport. So this was, not sure if you know about it, and I don't want to kind of go over it, but it's an amazing conceptualization. So what they did at Tennis Australia was they divided the tennis court into squares. I think it was about 6,776 squares. And each of those squares mapped to a particular NFT represented by a tennis ball and a beautiful sort of looking tennis ball. For NFT owners of those AO art balls, they could track where their how often that ball, the real tennis ball, landed in their coordinate, and they could earn all sorts of privileges and rights and sell the ball or the NFT during the game. The ultimate prize was actually a real tennis ball, which was given to the winner, in which the championship ball landed in the court. So it created this amazing sort of fan engagement that you didn't have to be at the game to experience. You just had to have your NFT and your coordinate on the court and engage in that way. They also created a Decentraland virtual world, so you could actually go around the courts and the environment virtually and experience all sorts of, sponsorship drops and that sort of thing as well. So it created virtual experiences, it created a gamification of the tennis that the fan could participate in directly rather than just spectate, and revenue stream for Tennis Australia and the Australian Open. I've got it on good authority, but I'm not to be quoted, that the revenue stream was one of the largest, if not the largest revenue stream for the Australian Open in 2022. Reasons for success. Well, as Gary said, the idea of ownership and scarcity is powerful for digital natives and often more important than physical assets. For NBA Top Shot, having IP rights and control over image rights. We don't have image rights in Australia, but in the US, image rights are a very powerful thing. The NBA is an extremely exceptional example because it is one of those organisations that has control over all of the, footage, over the image rights, brand names, everything. It's absolutely in control of everything. So it can do anything with all of that without having to worry about infringing IP rights, image rights, having to negotiate with all sorts of stakeholders. It could do what it wanted. For AO Art Ball, it was completely different. It wasn't about the players. It wasn't about the audio-visual moments. It was about a game of chance and avoided, the conflicting IP, broadcasting and sponsorship rights that you might get into if you do something a little bit more with the actual footage itself or the players. And it was so successful and different that it won a Cannes Lions Award, and as mentioned, generated multiple new revenue streams for the Open. The potential for racing, in my view, is multi-dimensional as well. The racing itself is just one facet. There's the fashion, the glamour, the VIP experiences, the networking, the fine food and wine, various experiences that could be accessed and traded using NFT-based membership, and it's limited only by its imagination, but also potentially the law. And I've left it right to the last minute to just go through what some of these issues are. But when you talk about the NFT representing something, and it might be that it's membership and it gives you access to all sorts of different rights and benefits, it's very important to do the analysis of whether or not whatever you're doing actually transforms it into something else that is governed by regulation, and particularly whether or not a gambling license is needed, for example, whether or not what you're offering to the market is a security or a derivative requiring a financial services license. And also, what is it that someone is owning? Are there misleading and deceptive conduct issues when you're representing to the market that someone can own a moment, someone can own a photograph, someone can own a graphic? To get a little bit technical, you can't actually transfer ownership of anything by the NFT. It needs to be done in a contract, particularly if we're talking about IP rights. That's done by an IP assignment deed. It needs to be in writing and signed. So there are certain legal elements that are unavoidable. Token mapping, very quickly, the Australian Federal Government has released a consultation paper which will try to, I suppose, bring a little bit more certainty in terms of what those NFT offerings are and what the applicable regulation will be. But until then, we've simply got to work within the laws that we've got and not assume that they don't apply, because we do have existing laws that do apply. And finally, I just want to leave you with a little concept called split chain. This is really, when we're thinking about blockchain and we get caught up in how automated all the transactions are, this amazing new technology, we don't need any centralised authority. It's important to remember that we still have those laws that exist beside it, and the laws can actually help strengthen whatever blockchain use case you've got in mind for your industry. And that's where I shall leave it. Thank you.